so I'll leave it at that. And if you wish to do that and avail yourself, I will make myself available. I'll coordinate through Mr. Gill's office. We'll make sure we have room here. I'll work. I'm way too big. I eat way too much. I don't mind lunch hours for those that are, 8 to 5 and only have a lunch hour. I don't mind zipping over here at 5:15 on an afternoon and schedule 30, 45 minutes, and I can kind of outline some other examples of policies and procedures, but your opinion is much more important than those. But I think if you're exposed to them, it'll give you some ideas and maybe realizing where staff and people are coming from. And so that's what I make myself available for if you wish to do that.
All right, thank you. And I think it's worth too, we're not going to sit here and pound this one anymore into the ground, but I think it's worth the consideration too of what the mayor suggested, maybe not tonight, but at some point, hopefully in the very near future, January or February, looking at a workshop. It's also important, I think, to note too, in that memorandum that was sent to the mayor and ourselves being the city council, that Mr. Sessions, our city manager, also put in here he would like to request respectfully a workshop to reaffirm roles, responsibilities, and expectations of elected officials and staff. His goal is not conflict, but to clarify standards. The city's operations depend on constructive working relationships between the council, administration, and staff. Restoring these boundaries is essential to ensuring the continued success of our organization and the well-being of our employees. So I think it's important to note that everybody's wanting to do what's best for the city, and everybody's wanting to be passionate, if that's the word we want to use, or and so we have 5 different individuals up here, or 5 different individual personalities, 5, and the mayor makes 6, and he's definitely a different personality, right? And then we have Mr. Sessions, but we've all got to find a way to come together and work despite our differences or maybe differences of opinion, and do what's best for Live Oak and not what's maybe just best for us here at the dais, and that goes for myself included. So I think we all learn and all do better at what our job is. If we stop learning and we stop trying to improve ourselves, then I think we're failing in our duty. So having said that, let's put that one to bed for now. Hopefully we can do that and move on with the agenda, which is Mr. Sessions' agenda now, item 6 alpha, which is we're not, for the record, Mr. Fajola doesn't want to do any comments now, so we'll go straight to 6A.
The reason I brought up 6A was my review's coming next month, so I want to make sure that y'all had this performance review form ready to go to actually review my performance and my contract. That was just my only question. The reason I went, Ms. Vanessa brought it up, and I wanted to put it under me because that was my question too.
In the past, I know that Mr. Gill provided us with a form that we completed, and we set up a time with, I think it was Mr. Curtis.
Correct.
And we met with him individually.
Correct.
And then we came to that council. It was done there as well. So I don't have any problem. I don't know. I know Mr. Jefferson and I did that. You guys did not because you weren't here yet. But
right. And it was done in January. That's when the performance review was done. Am I correct?
I think it was. Yes.
Just reminding you.
We missed out. We didn't do it this January.
Right.
And we should have.
Right. Mr. Sessions has been here. That contract was January 9th in 23. So there was no evaluation then, and we're coming up to January again with no evaluation. So we have to come up with, I think the way that it's done is that we are supposed to look at the form that was sent to see if we agreed with that form. And he's supposed to look at the form and see if he agreed with it. This is something that before we came aboard, you all agreed with. Now this is something that now we have to come up with one that all 6 of us agree with.
I was just doing a reminder because it's next month. That's the reason I brought it up.
Right. So, that process has to occur.
And Ms. Vanessa, I know we have, and John can correct me if I'm wrong, we have a sort of a standard form, managerial employees annual performance evaluation form, which I think is more for the employees under the manager. I have researched it a little bit today because, and so I can get with Mr. Gill next week and get some categories. I think this is a very good starting point. Mr. Gill should have it if y'all want to use it as a good starting point. And again, you know, I'll be glad to give each one of you my phone number. I've got some other categories, the international county and city manager associations. I pulled some of their forms, so I'll be glad to sit down with Mr. Gill and put some categories in with a 1 through 5 ranking, and then as this form is, which I think is very helpful, you know, under each category there's a comment section that you can kind of go outside the box and fill in the box. And so if you want me to do that, I've already begun that research this afternoon at some council. So seeing it was on the agenda, I was able to provide some time for it. So I'll be glad to try to get that first of the week with Mr. Gill so we can get it out to you. Call me or Mr. Gill, and if we need to add something, we'll be glad to, or subtract something, then we can get a final form to Mr. Sessions.
One question regarding this. Now, is there a workshop where we have to get together and the 5 of us say, okay, these are the questions that we are, because I think in 20, when they first went over to the managerial type government, that's what those council members done. I believe they got together and they went over the form and agreed to what questions or the format together. I think it was a public, it was a meeting that, or a workshop that they done. And then it had to be, the city manager had his format and it sort of was combined. So do we need a workshop for that, or?
That would be appropriate. What I'm suggesting is I think workshops are much more productive if there has been the input prior to the workshop and that everyone sort of has a baseline document to start with. That's a lot easier than saying, okay, what are your 3 categories or 5 categories? What are your, you know, I think between the research I've done today, I would hope I have the vast majority of job descriptions, job performance areas, but I'd like to be able to get that to y'all the first of the week for your additional input. That way you're looking at a document and say, I don't know what you mean by number 3, or I like it, but can we consider adding 4, 5, and 6? And then if we do that, which again, a workshop is a great thing, but I think we need to have a template before we get there because it just makes it a lot easier than trying to start from scratch. And I'm just saying I'd be willing to go ahead and work with Mr. Gill to have that template ready for you first of the week.
Let me ask
Should
you,
be Wednesday.
Mr. Clerk, John, excuse me, Mr. Attorney. John, the layout that we used to do the performance review, was that come up with previous council panels, or how did that form came up?
That form has evolved by city manager to city manager. From the Kerry Walden,
Right.
going to Ron Williams,
Correct.
doing up to George.
Right.
And I think over that period of time, it's been fleshed out pretty much to what we have today. It's pretty comprehensive, but I mean, it don't always address all the questions.
Right.
But it does try to get to the majority of performance, if that's what you're looking for, is performance review. And I think the questionnaire that we have will handle that, but somebody else's opinion may be different.
Okay.
And I know the one that I was referencing at, like, for instance, at the end has evaluators' additional comments. That sort of each individual, you know, personal council person's opinions and recommendations and suggestions. And then there, for instance, for this one, there's a category for other, kind of where each council member has the flexibility to
That's what
say,
we've used last.
yeah, to say other is, I think this should have been a category, and so I'm gonna make it a category on my evaluation. You can score it, and then it has a place for additional comments to further expand on your evaluation in sort of an area that you determine individually that you think should be addressed or added.
What do you do with that?
Workshop. He's gonna get that to us, we're gonna do a workshop and
Yes.
move forward.
All right, item B.
All right, capital and projects update. I can think of about 18 new businesses in town that's come because of the capital improvements we've made. I'm gonna go through a list of things. Manor and Long Sidewalk, Haynes Street Drainage Well Grant, Houston and Maple Drainage Well Grant, Urban Drainage Well Grant, US 129, a water main 12-inch loop, which has serves all of those right there on 129, all the new businesses there from Chick-fil-A down to Popeyes and the new 7 Brew place down in front of Publix. The water project on Ruby and Main, the water project on Urban and 7th, and Miss Linda, the water project on Urban and 7th, it was just for the water project, but the paving was included just for that project. But we want to pave more places. So we also did a water project on Lewis, Lincoln, Taylor, and Richardson. We did a paving project on Center, Lafayette, and Horn over there. And those are complete at this point. Now, the next few I'm going to read, the biggest one on the list right now is this last week we had a huge oak tree fall on our animal control center and completely destroyed it. So there's a lot of people in the community that wants to donate money and product to help build it. I'm in the process right now. I've already designed it, and I've got to get an engineered drawing for it, but we already know what we need. And we've got people willing to give us all the metal, somebody willing to do all the work, put all the metal on, and I think I've got an engineer that's going to give me engineering too. So pretty much it's going to be just cleaning the property off and doing the complete demolition. I might can get that done pro bono also. The concrete's probably going to be the biggest issue. So it's a big thing we need to take care of because we're putting undue pressure on the county right now with our animals going to the county. Septic and sewer is almost complete in phase 1. The rehab of the Walmart lift station is working. The construction on 68 Terrace with Suwannee County, we're already working on that. We just went out for bid on the anoid bed replacement for the gas system. The rehab of the garage roof, we just got the bids in on it. The Heritage Square parking for the CRA is part of the projects we're working on. Hale Park rebuild, working with the county. The future planning for expansion of water and sewer at Interstate for future growth. We recently received a grant for alternative water supply for $507,195 for the Park Street drainage well. We have a SCOP grant for Hamilton's repaving, the Heritage Park water loop, which is part of the CDBG, and the new water well, which is CDBG. Lake Mary maintenance is a grant that's still coming. The hazard mitigation grant for downtown flood mitigation is the largest grant. It's about $60 million. The hazard mitigation lift station generators is also part of that. For when we have the flooding, we've got to make sure that the lift stations work, and they have to have generators to make them work, but the generators have to be high enough to be above water level. But with the hazard mitigation grant, the water level won't come up to the level where it's going to affect them. The Lowe's lift redirect, the water loop down 72nd Street to Houston, the Ontario water upgrade, which will bring water from 11th to 8th Street. Grant funding we did receive for the CDBG housing and water well was for $4.5 million, $4.56 million. So far with fire, we've gotten $686,000 worth of grants, and police $620,000. And then so far the value of all the things that I'm involved in right now is coming up to about $86,370,000 $50,000 for the city of Live Oak, and these are the projects I'm involved with right now, since I don't sit in my office very long. And like I said, we had about 18 businesses that we've built that's attached to all these projects so far, and more businesses are coming. So that's my capital projects update, and then the CDBG grant update.
Hold on.
Yes, ma'am.
The hazard mitigation grant, that one that's the 60,
The big one.
have we been awarded that grant
No,
yet?
ma'am, actually, Friday, a week ago, a group from Maryland called me who knew nothing about hurricanes and wanted to know about the 66 streets that we had flooded. And they wanted to know how many minutes it took to detour around the street or how many miles. And I tried to explain to them that people in those streets that were flooded either had to swim out or walk out. There was no detouring out of that street. So then I called a Zoom meeting with them, so maybe I had somebody else on their team that would understand a little more about how I could explain that Live Oak is a bowl. And so they got it, because I felt like they were trying to keep us from getting the grant. So I was a little bit upset. I was fighting for this grant, because if we can mitigate this flooding with this deal, we'll never flood again. I don't care what kind of Debbie shows up. We won't. Our engineering is sound. There's representatives from that company sitting in this audience right now. When they showed up here and I showed them what I wanted, they said, well, you already made it easy because you know where the water needs to go. All we need to do is figure out the pumps and the pipes. So we've worked hard on that too. And my goal is to fix Live Oak forever from being flooded. They wanted to go off on the 500-year event. I said, well, we've had 3 500-year events in 60 years. And the last one happened within 12. The next one may happen within 6. So don't give me that 500-year stuff. I said, it can happen the way the world is. So I know I have a limited amount of time to be able to get this grant and get it built so that we don't flood again. Because the millions of dollars and the personal distress that everybody in this town went through that got flooded, it hurts me terribly. I had employees that were completely underwater in their houses and couldn't come to work, or we had to go get them. And to see people living in places that everything is destroyed, I don't ever want that to happen again, and that's why I'm so passionate on this grant. But that was the last thing when the hazard mitigation was 2 Fridays ago. I had a Zoom call with them.
Okay, so that's kind of like the hold up.
I'm waiting.
For the check.
I think it's going to come out in the legislature meeting in January. That's what I'm praying for.
Be there.
Because it's something we needed. I've got letters of support from Washington DC on down that I've turned in with a hazard mitigation grant that shows how bad we need it. So,
And the second question I have, we have put in the budget for this year for 6th Street. Where are we with that? Have we had engineers go out? Have we?
Utah engineers are already looking at that also. And that's one of, I had 28 or 29 items I just listed, and that's another one. I knew I was going to miss a couple of them, but this was what I had in my head of what I knew we had working on right now.
And what about the paving for Brown and 2 streets side by side, pretty much?
The Brown and Spruce?
Yeah, no, not Spruce. We didn't get anything for Spruce. Brown and Broom. I think it's on the agenda that those streets to be paved. Am I correct?
All right, I have to make sure.
I talked with Public Works, and Dale said yes.
Well,
And then in the council meeting, all that, I thought you brought up that Broom and Brown would be paved.
well, we know we need to pave a lot of streets, but before we pave anything, we got to fix what's underneath the street.
I think those have been fixed. That's why we put it on the list
Okay.
to do that, because those streets are already torn up. But
I'm sure there's some I forgot.
all right.
So the CDBG grant update, that's it. So I guess we move on to the
Item D, yeah.
D.
All right, let me get my tabs going here. All right, City Council Resolution Number 2025-43, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Live Oak, Florida, approving and authorizing the execution of a railroad reimbursement agreement, grade crossing traffic control devices, municipal with the State of Florida Department of Transportation, and Florida Gulf and Atlantic Railroad LLC, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Today, I reached out to Miss, I'm going to butcher her name, Miss DeMint at FDOT, who sent us the correspondence. Very, very nice lady, very informative. I essentially posed 2 questions to her. What is the estimated cost? She pointed me within the contract documents that currently what is anticipated, and it's highlighted. I was talking to Miss Vanessa today, trying to find the page number, but in any event, there's a document within that packet that talks about, here it is, railroad grade crossing traffic control devices, annual maintenance cost. The item that is highlighted would be the type of device going in, which is a 2-quadrant flashing lights and gates with 1 track, and that's $3,600 per year. Under the agreement, we would be required to pay half of that on an annual basis. DOT is fronting $492,000 to the railroad in order to make the upgrades. That's their contribution. They don't have any funding program for the maintenance, and they don't have any funding program for the surface, as she indicated. That was her word. Surface, I finally got her to tell me that was pavement, so that me and her are on the same page. And so it's up to us to maintain the road. It's a city road. We have to maintain it anyway. And so the only potential obligation there, as Ms. Vanessa pointed out, would be the striping and stuff that railroad needs pursuant to their requirements. And I'm guessing that is, you know, the stops need to be so many feet from the railroad crossing arm, so we don't get vehicles up there too close. And I then asked Mr. Gill from assistance today, which he was able to provide to me, as to what maintenance dollars we are already spending on all of our other railroad crossings. Mussey is actually listed on there, and Miss Joanne currently has it down that for 2025, I'm assuming this is either what we paid or what was budgeted was
Budgeted and paid, actually.
$2,136, so that's about $300 more than what's on DOT's estimate. So it would be in that range, around $2,000, give or take a couple of hundred on an annual expense for Mussey. I asked her, the second question was, what if the council decides not to enter into the maintenance agreement? And she said, I really can't answer that question because I've